Hello and welcome to the Cardinal News of Virginia, a podcast from Cardinal News. We're a nonprofit news outlet. We cover Southwest and Southside Virginia at cardinalnews.org. I'm Dutchie Jessee. The Cardinal podcast is sponsored by Muneris, serving communities with expert group benefits and Medicare solutions. Cardinal News has a new reporter covering Lynchburg full-time. Emma Malinak, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here today.
So you've written about the Blackwater Creek restoration story. We're going to get to it, but first, let's talk a little bit about Emma. Welcome. You are here as a core member for Report for America, which is very exciting. It's a partnership with that organization between Cardinal and RFA. And everyone at Cardinal has been very excited about this, and our readers and listeners, because we have wanted to cover Lynchburg full-time for quite a while. It's a major city in our coverage area, and we're super excited. How are you settling in? How's it going?
Yeah, thanks for asking. It has been a wonderful transition so far. Everyone at Cardinal News has been so welcoming, which has made the transition really easy. So thank you for that. But everyone in Lynchburg has been so excited to see this revival of local news. And so that's made it really special as well. People have been coming to me with ideas or just coming to me to be excited to meet me and to see this new branch of Cardinal News. So it's awesome to see that energy.
You are a recent graduate of Washington and Lee University, right, in the School of Journalism?
Yes, indeed. I graduated in May, and just after that, I packed up and moved to Lynchburg.
Tell me why you wanted to go into journalism.
That's a great question. I have always loved reading, writing, storytelling. That has always been a part of my love as a student. And so in college, I was looking for ways that I could apply that to a career. And journalism, I think, is storytelling with real impact. And that was something that I wanted to do. I wanted to get down to those stories that mattered, for the way people see their worlds, the way people interact with their worlds, the way people interact with their democracy, the way people understand problems and solutions, and all of those things. Journalism intersects with all of that. So to be able to do the storytelling that I love, but do it with real human impact is really important to me.
You have been, we've done a survey where we were asking our readers, hey, tell us, what do you want Emma to cover in Lynchburg? And we've gotten some good response. We're very excited about it. You're going to be working your way through that list whenever that is applicable, and stuff that we can tackle and things that you can cover, in addition to, everyday things in Lynchburg, I'm sure. What are some other ways you look for stories? I mean, you told me earlier that a lot of it's just old-fashioned curiosity. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. The story that we're going to talk about today was a little bit of just me being curious. I had driven across Lakeside Drive many times in moving and setting up, and I saw a lot of construction. And naturally, when you drive past construction, you ask yourself, I wonder what's going to be built there. And it was actually through another reporter here at Cardinal News that I learned they're not building a building or something physical. They're actually restoring a natural area. And so, yeah, sometimes it's just looking at the world around you and being curious about those things.
And as a reporter, you have the opportunity to just, I'll just ask. Let me find out more. So now that we've zoomed into Lakeside Drive, let's get to the story at hand today, and that is a restoration of Blackwater Creek. This story begins, it begins in the 1930s, but let's go back to just a few years ago. I guess it's been several years now, 2018. August of 2018, there's a major storm that happens in Lynchburg. Tell me about that.
Absolutely. So the area of Lynchburg that we're looking at is near on the University of Lynchburg's campus. And they had a large lake called College Lake. That lake was made by damming up Blackwater Creek, which happened in the 1930s, which you said. That dam, through the years, it ages just like any other infrastructure. And in 2011, it was actually deemed as a high-risk dam. And that was a study done by the Department of Conservation and Recreation. So already in 2011, we knew, maybe this dam is not going to last long term. Right. But in 2018, push came to shove because there was a large storm. There were 6 inches or more of rain within just a couple of hours. And so with all of that rain falling all at once, there was an issue with the dam where water went over top of the dam and onto the road, and there had to be evacuations in the area.
Right, it made national news, right?
It made national news. There was an NPR reporter there monitoring the evacuations as they happened. And so with that storm in August 2018, city officials really started to see the dam as a public safety risk and really started to think critically about what they could do to get rid of the dam or just to make that area more safe.
So today, you if you drive by if you're on Lakeside Drive in Lynchburg, you'll see there's lots of activity, and it looks like you said it looks like construction. It looks like there's a lot going on there. So what is happening today? Where are we?
Great question. So this story is looking at the final phase of construction, which is what we call restoration. Okay. So it's rebuilding the creek to hopefully as close as you can get it to, a natural, strong creek bed. That is a really complicated process where they're moving down the creek inch by inch, lining it with rocks, putting tree trunks in the bottom, stabilizing the sides, planting grasses and trees and shrubs to create a root system around the creek. It's really, like I said, inch by inch, making sure that this area is stable again. So that's the kind of construction that we're looking at right now. And that's expected to be wrapped up by the end of the summer. And so we are finally seeing this come to completion after what's now been 7 years of designing and planning and implementing.
So by the end of the summer, that's coming right up.
Yes.
So what is it like to drive by there now? Does this impact traffic at all?
This is not impacting traffic right now. Traffic was being affected when the bridge was under construction, but that was wrapped up multiple summers ago. I would have to look at the dates, but the new bridge has been there for a couple years. So now that the bridge is there and traffic is taken care of, they can focus on this natural area, which is off to the side of the bridge.
There's a link in your article to collegelakedamremoval.org. I wrote it down, collegelakedamremoval.org, and it's great because that website lays it out visually very nicely to where you can see what the vision is, like literally what it should look like at the end of this. But a lot of illustration, very well done artwork and explainers of each phase and what it looks like and what this means down the road and all the things. So that's a great visual that helps people kind of wrap their mind around it. Sometimes this stuff is hard to connect in your dots when it's not done and you just see, as you said in your article, debris, things moved out of the way and what looks like a big mess, lots of dirt piles and things like that. It's hard to visualize. So what has been some of the process? What did people involved with this, what have they told you that the process has been like? Has it been difficult, more difficult than they may have foreseen, or not so much?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think with any project of this size, there are going to be challenges. Mm-hmm. With this project in particular, there have been lots of voices and people at play because you have to look at the engineering side, the environmental science side, the restoration side, the city government side. All of those things are intersecting to pull off a project like this. So naturally, there are challenges there in coordinating that many people.
Yeah, just logistics probably.
Right. Also, you have to take into consideration things like rain, right? We're always having more water falling. And so, especially in these last stages where they're so focused on keeping the ground stable, you have to change your schedule depending on when rain is coming down.
So let's camp out at rain for a little bit, because the event that really spurred people into action, like, okay, now we have to do something, was August of 2018. You said 6 inches or more fell within 1 or 2 hours, which is pretty striking, right? We're seeing rain events like this more and more. And in Cardinal Country, which is Southwest and Southside Virginia, because of the mountains. There's a lot of area that's just prone to flooding just from, the physics of rain falling and coming down and also, people living in valleys and things like that. It's pretty scary that people had to be evacuated from this because of the dam, because the water rose over the dam basically in 2018. The people planning and building this, environmental scientists, engineers, we don't have a crystal ball exactly, but we know that heavier, more dramatic rainfall bursts are going to keep happening. This is what the science and the data, the trends are showing us. How are they planning for that with the path of this creek or the structure?
Yeah, great question. And I want to also add to what you're saying. One thing that's unique about Blackwater Creek specifically is that it's one tributary in Lynchburg that almost a good proportion of Lynchburg's smaller tributaries feed into Blackwater Creek, which then feeds into the James River. So it really is this really central waterway where if we're seeing heavy rainfall in other parts of Lynchburg, it's all going to filter to that spot. So it makes flooding concerns even more on the top of people's mind. In terms of mitigating flooding concerns, one strategy is just building lots of natural curves into the waterway. So the way that it was described to me was we all know how water flows through a fire hose. When it's a straight line, water can move really fast and it can pick up a lot of power. We also can picture how water moves through a garden hose, right? When there's lots of kinks, lots of turns, water moves much slower, doesn't have as much power. So in restoring this creek, the goal is to make it like a garden hose where water can never get around any curve too fast. Another strategy is to really support the wetland environment that's around the creek. And so it's likely that the creek will overflow. We can't eliminate flooding altogether. But what we can do is make sure the wetland is a nice open floodplain where water has the chance to go if the water does get out of the creek during heavy rainfall.
Nice. So you also mentioned that not everyone agrees that removing the College Lake Dam and restoring the creek, Blackwater Creek, was the best case scenario. So tell me a little bit about that. What would be the arguments against it, unless that's too strong a term, but tell me a little bit more about that.
Absolutely. So everything we've been talking about so far has been focused on public safety, which certainly is a big part of this discussion. The other part of this discussion is the environmental impacts. And so I spoke with an environmental science professor at the University of Lynchburg who is really concerned about the effects of pollution now that this creek is continuously flowing. Essentially, when the dam was in place, it stopped the water, which meant it also stopped pollutants. So anything that got into that waterway was clogged up right where that dam was, which meant the water in the creek was very, very clean. That's important for local water quality because, like I said, this creek is feeding into the James River, which is a source of water for Lynchburg. So dam equals stopping the majority of pollutants. Right. When you no longer have that dam, pollutants are going to flow through the creek and nothing is going to stop them. So there is some concern about what local water quality will look like now that that dam has been removed. The pollutants we're looking at aren't, scary chemicals that may come to mind. We're talking about things like runoff from farms and runoff from wastewater treatment plants and things like that. So things that are a part of our everyday life that, because we live in an urban developed society, we can't get rid of those pollutants. So they're inevitably going to end up in that waterway, and now they're inevitably going to run through that waterway. And the arguments for that environmental side is that, we have developed this land so much that there's really nothing we can do at this point to undo that damage and to create a perfectly clean and flood-free water system.
Right. The ship has sailed,
The
so to
ship has
speak.
sailed, yes.
Okay. So let's talk about when it's finished, what will it look like? Will there be, when we talk about creeks and waterways, it's a lovely amenity, right? It's lovely to see, and it enhances the beauty in an area usually. Are they going to try and take advantage of that as they finish this construction? What will people who live in Lynchburg see and experience?
Yes, that's a great question. There already is a trail that runs along the creek. It's just been closed for, goodness, about a year and a half now, since January 2024, because once you move these big excavators in, you can't have people hiking around. So that trail has been closed, but that is set to reopen at the end of the summer. So certainly there is that recreation. There are also plans to build out more trails and possibly some boardwalks in that area. That would be a conversation, of course, after we know that this is stable and going to work long term. And then there's also a really cool kind of adaptation of infrastructure that was there before. They saved part of what was the old Lakeside Drive Bridge. They didn't tear it down completely. They saved a little part of it, and they're going to turn that into an overlook so that you can stand at the edge of it and look out over the wetland and the new creek. Hopefully it'll be a good place for spotting some wildlife and bird watching and things like that.
Cool. What surprised you? The cool thing about being a reporter is you get to you get these slice of life experiences where whatever you're covering that day, you spend a good amount of time with a person or a situation in a scene, and get to see how it all works, and you learn so much. It can be really cool for the curious. So did you learn anything in this story that surprised you, or is a good takeaway for people to know about?
Yeah, I think kind of for two different reasons, I learned that this is a story that's so much bigger than Lynchburg and so much bigger than Blackwater Creek. The first reason is that, like we said before, Blackwater Creek is one small part of a very big water system. The water that affects local life in Lynchburg then moves to the James River and then eventually to the Chesapeake Bay. And so when we're thinking about things like pollution and like environmental impact, that's more than a Lynchburg problem, because whatever we contribute to our water here does end up in other places across Virginia. So that's kind of one bigger picture moment that surprised me. Another thing that I learned throughout this process is that this conversation about what to do with old dams and man-made lakes, this is happening in a lot of localities across Virginia. And this was a fun fact that I learned in this reporting process, but there are only 2 natural lakes in the state of Virginia. Every other lake here has been man-made by damming up a creek system, just like we saw in Lynchburg. And so, a lot of those dams were made a long time ago, which means now we may be starting to see that failing infrastructure, and we may be starting to see those flood safety risks. And so this is a case study for how a group of engineers approached that in Lynchburg. But this is a story we're going to be seeing over and over as other cities and towns decide what they're going to do with this aging infrastructure.
Excellent point. That's good. We'll be here covering it. Emma, I really appreciate your time. We're so happy to have you at Cardinal News now covering Lynchburg for us. I always have our reporters give their email at the end of this for people that want to reach out. What's your email?
Easy peasy. My email is emma@cardinalnews.org.
Are you on social channels, and can people reach you that way, social media? If you are, if you're not, that's fine. But I just wondered if people would see you covering Lynchburg on your social channels.
I think most of the social media coverage you'll see through Cardinal News. So
okay, gotcha.
The reporting that I'm doing on social media is coordinated by Zach, who is one of our team members who oversees all that, and then is posted on Cardinal outlets. So wherever you're keeping up with Cardinal News, you should be able to find me as well.
Great. Thank you so much, Emma. And thanks to everyone for listening to the Cardinal News of Virginia. Thanks to our sponsor, Muneris. Also, thanks to Sean Eddy for production and support. Also to Cardinal News' own Zach Shelton and Sherry Quinley, in addition, for their help. Read our paywall-free news at cardinalnews.org. I'm Dutchie Jessee.